their own capabilities for mutual self-defense is not only is not something that we find offensive, it's something we'd be supportive of. Obviously within the confines of their constitutional system, but they have some limitations in what they can do. But the idea that Japan's military would become more capable is not something we would be offended by. It's something we would actually be encouraged by.
So can you talked about points of possible cooperation with the Chinese, but on the points which were well known of contention, did you get a sense that there was a willingness the Chinese to move, or are they just...
Well, I wouldn't look, today's meeting with our Chinese counterparts was not a negotiation on any of these matters. It is the first time that I met my counterpart in person, who, by the way, happens to also be the National Security Advisor, so he's not the archivist, though, but I suggested that perhaps he asked for that title, and that way we'd be equal. But
that's a lot bigger job than archivist.
Well, they have 5,000 years of archives, too, so, you know, but I would say that it was very positive a very positive interaction, and constructive is the most important part. At the end of the day, look, no matter what, the United States and China have to have relations. We have to have communication. We have to be able to interact with one another. And it's just impossible for the foreign ministers of our respective countries to not engage in conversation. So I'm glad we had that meeting today. There's a lot of work to be done. No one's saying it's easy, but we do have some opportunities on some things we might be able to work on to begin to build some momentum in our relationship. I thought it was a very good meeting. I really felt encouraged by it. But look, there's work to be done.
Secretary, if I can ask a follow-up question. You mentioned that you see high odds of a meeting between the presidents of the U.S. and China. There's a big Chinese military parade happening scheduled for September 3rd. Did the Chinese foreign minister extend an invitation to that? Was that discussed as a potential opportunity?
No, we didn't discuss any specific date in mind in that regard. But the reason why I tell you there's a high probability they're going to meet is that they both want to meet. And I don't know President Xi, but I know President Trump, and you know, I can tell you that he's committed to having that meeting happen. So the reason why I think there's high odds of it happening is they both want it to happen. So I'm sure we'll work on a date and find a mutually acceptable date for both sides. And I'm pretty confident. We want it to be a good meeting, and we're going to work hard between now and whatever date that is to make sure that when that visit does happen, it's as productive as possible.
We saw you today seek out the Russian foreign minister in the larger gathering. Why did you go up and talk to him? What did you guys discuss? Did you give him a response from President Trump to the conversation you had yesterday?
No, it was just a follow-up on an unrelated item to our conversation yesterday, and I'll leave it at that.
Mr. Secretary, many Japanese people are concerning about the U.S. policy, which is demanding drastically increase defense spending. Do you have something to comment? How do you think?
Well, I wouldn't characterize it as a demand. I mean, we've encouraged them to invest in certain capabilities. It's less to do with the amount of money and more to do about certain things they can do. At the end of the day, we are in an agreement with Japan on collective self-defense, on the ability to come to each other's aid in a time of conflict or in a time of danger. And there are certain capacities that we think they have high capability. We understand, you know, there are dynamics that constitutional and legal limit their ability to invest in certain things versus other things. And, but we have a very close relationship with Japan, very close. You may not know this, it's an inside joke that's now an outside joke, and I'll share with you, and that is that I believe I have met with a foreign minister of Japan more than any other foreign minister on the planet in my 5.5 months in office. I think we're up to like 9 or 10 meetings we interact. And how we joke with each other is that we see each other more than we see our respective spouses. And so it's a very close relationship, a very historic relationship, and one that's going to continue. So I think anyone who's looking for like drama or division there shouldn't be doing it, because the truth of the matter is our relationship with Japan is very solid, and obviously we're both open democratic governments, so when there are some differences of opinion, it's going to be public, not private, but I don't see that as a negative. But we have a very strong and very good relationship with Japan, and that's not going to change.
Mr. Secretary, in your conversation with Foreign Minister Wang, did the subject of Taiwan come up at all, and in particular the recent military drills being held by the Taiwanese?
No issue about drills. I think the Chinese position on Taiwan has been expressed. I don't think it's a mystery to anyone in terms of where they stand on it. And our position has also been expressed pretty openly. So it was not, as I said, our meeting today was not a negotiation or a back and forth on items. It was more about establishing a constructive baseline where we can continue to talk on multiple fronts, including trade, but beyond trade.
Secretary, if I can ask a question about your meeting with Vietnam. a country with one of the largest trade surpluses with the U.S. We've heard that there was maybe some misunderstanding about the agreement announced last week for a 20% tariff, that the Vietnamese weren't confident that that was fully agreed to, that perhaps they were looking for a 10 to 15% tariff. Was that an issue that they raised, trying to lower their tariff level? Was that the tariff an issue that they raised during the bilateral meeting?
Well, the issue of trade was raised. I'm not the negotiator on trade, and neither is the foreign minister. And so we weren't here to negotiate a trade deal. I'll refer you to our trade negotiators as far as the status of that. Clearly, Vietnam feels